was getting tired of doing like geometry homework, and I wanted to get my calculator to automate some of that for me, which it did. That was cool. And I really loved programming and got more into it. So in college, I really got into competitive programming. I did a lot ICPC, which is like, I don't know, the main college competition. We got 11th one year. That was cool. I still do a bunch of Google Code Jam, which is happening right now, by the way. You should go do it. I got 7th one year. That was neat. And since graduating, I've been a software engineer, first at YouTube, and then at Jane Street and Jump Trading, which are both finance companies. Yeah, so my main advice for you is to just like practice coding a lot. And the reason for that is that programming is like a super useful skill. Like being good with computers is just tremendously valuable for, I think, pretty much like any job that you might want to do. There's like a lot of computers in the world right now. There's just going to be more. They're running, increasingly large parts of everything. And so being able to work with them is just like a super valuable skill. And there like aren't enough people out there who are good at it. So like being a person who's good at it is really great. Opens up a lot of good opportunities for you. And also it's like super interesting, especially if you're, as Brian said, one thing I really like about computing is I feel like it's kind of the intersection of like math and like the real world, right? It's like very abstract and pure and like puzzly, which I really like personally, but like also it's like super important and useful and like, like running everything in the world. So that's a really nice place to be. And so, yeah, my main advice to you really is just that find some coding that you enjoy doing and just do a lot of it, and then you'll get good at it. I think that's the best way to get good at anything, is to practice it a lot. So, coding competitions are really great for that. Like that's really what I did, is I got, really into that in college and wrote a lot of code, and, now I'm good at coding, and that's like really helpful. There's lots of other like, types of coding you could do. Start where I started and automate some of your boring repetitive homework. Make some games, make some mods for some fun games, make a website for yourself, learn about, how to do the internet. But yeah, just like do a lot of coding. It's super helpful. Okay, so I want to, talk about some things that you might do, for an actual job if you, with that skill of like programming. So probably the most common one is software engineer, which is like actually, telling all those computers that are running everything like what to do, which is just like a huge amount of work, like maybe surprisingly, right? Like a website like Twitter has like, I think thousands or tens of thousands of software engineers like running it, even though, it seems simple when you think about it. But like, I don't know, everything is very complicated, and it takes a lot of people to build like anything useful. And so there's just, a huge demand for people to like build these big computer systems that are, telling computers like how to do everything. And, it's not going to stop, right? Like computers keep getting more, more and more important, keep doing more and more things. And we just need more and more people to do this. And like, there's not enough people to do this right now. That's why salaries for software engineers are like sky high, which is great. Another good reason to be a software engineer. So that's one thing. You could also like start a company. That's pretty cool. That's very, very common thing to do out in California, Silicon Valley. Right, all these like big companies with tens of thousands of people now started with just a couple of people. And so if you have some idea for what you want to do, like going out and doing it is you can just do that. You can do that like in any area. It doesn't have to be computers. Computers is maybe especially good because, as Brian was saying, like the startup costs are relatively low, right? You just need to write some code, which you have all the tools, to write code like freely available on the internet. So, it's relatively easy to try something and, see if it looks good. There's also like research, right? That's what Brian does. He's a professor. Like figure out like what, figure out like how to do things that we don't know how to do yet, right? Software engineering is more about like, actually like building things that like, we know the principles, the ideas, and we just need to actually like execute on it and create something. And research is like, well, what do we do when we don't even know, what the right questions are to ask, when we just have no idea how to solve problems? So, obviously that's super important. Data science, right? Getting into basically like looking for patterns out in the world, right? Like there's huge amounts of data, people interacting with computers billions of times a day. Biology is getting like super computational because now we can read the genome, and it turns out the genomes are like 4 billion letters long, so you really need computers to deal with that. And yeah, so just figuring out how to make sense of the world, basically. And the world's really big, so we need computers to help us do that. User experience is more on the front end, right? Like how can people like interact better with computers? A lot of people find computers kind of unfriendly, unintuitive, right? They do exactly what you tell them to do, and no more, which is like not how humans work. So it's a struggle to make computers and humans sort of play well together. So that's sort of that. So I want to mention some like particularly cool areas of computer science, in my opinion. One is artificial intelligence, which is, I was mentioning that like it takes all these thousands of software engineers to like make computers do useful things because like everything is so complicated. So wouldn't it be great if computers could teach themselves how to do things instead? Well, yeah, people have been thinking that basically ever since computers were first invented. How cool that would be. And what's exciting right now is that that's really actually kind of happening. Computers like are learning to do things sort of on their own, and in many cases, like not only do you not have to spend all the time to teach them how to do things, but also they can do it better than we know how to teach them, right? So especially in a lot of games, computers are really superhuman right now. They're better than the best players in the world. That's been true in chess for like 20 years. Recently, it's been true. It's become true in Go, which is I don't know, chess, the sort of the cultural equivalent of chess over in Asia. Very cool game. Computers are now, superhuman at that. Poker recently, that's true. StarCraft, actually, they're not quite there yet, but they're better than, almost all people. They're maybe a little bit worse than the very best people. But, they could probably get there if they tried. And, the nice thing about games, as, for computers learning, is that they're a very artificial environment where you can practice a lot, right? That's like the main. Computers are not as good at learning from their experience as people are yet, so they need a lot of practice. And games are great for that because you can just fire up a new copy of the game. It's harder in the real world, right? You can't just fire up a new copy of the world, but they're working on it. And they've done some cool stuff lately, right? So GPT-3 is a program that got released a couple years ago from OpenAI, and it like writes English, and it's pretty good. It's not as good as like you guys probably. It's better than like a first grader, I think. So, that's pretty neat. And like, wouldn't it be something if, in a few years we did get a version that was better at writing than you guys? Like, yeah, maybe that would do some stuff. Computers are also pretty good at art. So when I was making these slides, I told a computer to draw something that was a programming contest. And here's what I came up with after just like a minute or two. So I'm not a good enough artist to tell if this is, good stuff or not. Certainly it's better than what I could do, but I think that's pretty cool. They're also getting better at like doing actual programming. So just recently, actually, I think DeepMind released an AI that does like code forces problems. And it's pretty good, actually. It's like not, it's nowhere near the level of the top competitors, but I think it's like around the level of like the average person doing contests, which is, pretty crazy. So like, I think AI is not quite like in prime time yet because, the things that it's better at than humans are like things that don't really, like, is it important if like an AI is super great at chess? Like, no, it's not really, doesn't affect the world too much, like who's good at chess. But it seems to be getting a lot better like recently. And, maybe in 10 or 20 or 30 years, if it keeps getting better, like that could be a huge deal, right? If it gets better than people at doing things, that could be exciting. So that's one, cool area that, take a look if you haven't. Another one I'll mention, which is pretty big, is cryptocurrencies, which I think is maybe like the highest growth area in the last few years. Like the price of Bitcoin, the first cryptocurrency, it's like gone up by 1000x in the last, 10 years or something. Which is just super interesting to be in the middle of like a super high growth situation like that, right? So yeah, just I think it's like an interesting thing to look at. I don't think you should actually go out and buy cryptocurrencies. I have not done that myself. It seems like a lot of them are pretty, scammy and don't quite work yet. And yet it's like, something that a lot of people are super interested in. So it's like interesting just from that basis. Like, what does it look like when a subfield, sort of becomes a big deal in the real world, like over a short period of time? And also, like, there's some interesting technical meat in there, right? So like the core innovation that they have here is like some notion of ownership, digitally around the internet. Because like, what does it mean to own something on a computer when you can just make a copy of the file and it's the exact same thing? So the answer is, well, if we all agree on, say, who owns how many Bitcoins, then that's what it means to own something, right? Is that people agree that you own it. And so they invented a way of coordinating on, agreeing on that. And that sort of lets you get, digital money or digital ownership in general. So yeah, and I guess another cool thing about this area is it's very like online, right? So like everything's just sort of on the internet. It's easy for you to, take a look at it. Yeah. Okay. So anyway, there's some things that are happening in computing. Let me talk, more about some career ideas. So I don't know, I feel like sort of a default option, which is a pretty good option, is to go into, be a software engineer at one of the big tech companies, right? You hear the acronym FANG a lot, which is Facebook, Apple, Amazon, Netflix, and Google, I believe. So, all these companies employ like thousands or tens of thousands of software engineers. And if you just want to build something like out in the real world, that's a pretty cool option. One nice thing is, I was mentioning that there seems to be like a shortage of people who are good at software engineering. That's reflected in the fact that these companies like pay super well. Like right out of school, you can get a job that pays like 4 times what like, the average American makes or something. And, that's not the average American just out of school. That's like everyone. And, that keeps getting better, as you are not just out of school and, get more senior. Levels.fyi has some information about, how much these companies pay. So yeah, that's a great option if you want to be a software engineer. So I was at YouTube for 1.5 years and working on YouTube. And we were uploading videos basically of all the music in the world. So here's an example. You can see it was sent to us by the Universal Music Group, which is one of the record labels. And we turned they sent us like an MP4 file and we turned it into a YouTube video. I guess it's a popular song. So I think we uploaded like 1% of the videos on YouTube. So that was neat. Yeah, so if you don't want to work for some big company, maybe you want to start your own company. So even all these big companies like Google was started by like 2 guys like not that long ago, right? What is it, like 25 years ago, and now it's huge. And that can happen, and it's a good way to learn a lot, right? If you're like one of 2 or 3 people trying to be a company, you need to do everything that like companies with 100 people are doing. So there's a lot of different things that you can try, and you can, yeah, I mean, if you have some idea that you think would be cool, like just go ahead and try it, right? Like what's the harm? You'll probably learn something. Usually, so I will say, if you just want to like make a lot of money, you can usually do that better at big companies. But sometimes it goes well. So I had like a couple friends who tried to start companies, and most of them, they try something for a year and it doesn't really, like happen, and they go back and do something else a year later. Like one of my friends who tried to start a company is now a billionaire, one of the richest people in the world. So sometimes it works out, not that often, but that was pretty cool. So another idea is academia. Right, so I think you should basically all like finish high school. Definitely do that. You should pretty much all like go to college, do undergrad. A harder question is like, should you go do a PhD, right? That's after undergrad, sort of training for doing research, like becoming a professor. And I don't know. I used to be like more skeptical of PhDs. I was like, well, it takes like 5 years to do it, and like, you should just like go get a job, in industry, which you'll also learn a lot during the 5 years of that. And they pay you better in industry than they pay grad students, so that's nice. But I don't know. I've gotten more positive over time. It seems like learning this like skill of doing research, right, of like figuring something out that like we actually just have no idea how to do is pretty valuable. Right. Obviously, in the real world, there's many things that we like don't have a good idea how to do. And so being able to sort of tackle that kind of question is actually like a pretty useful skill. So yeah, anyway, definitely something to think about in college. Like, do you want to do a PhD or not? Yeah, another I think kind of underrated idea is like go work for the government. Right, the government like runs a lot of important things in our society, and also they're like really bad at doing computer stuff, which is pretty sad. But also that means there's a big opportunity for improvement, right? Like if you go work for somewhere where things are going great already, that's nice in some ways, and probably you can make things a little bit better. But if you go work somewhere where things are going badly, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit for how it could be better, right? So I think that describes the government well, and in some ways it's kind of sad that all the smartest programmers are working on like making people click on ads like 0.1% of the time more, instead of working on like making the Social Security website better so that people can get their retirement checks. So my wife worked for part of the government called the USGS for a couple of years just recently. So one thing she worked on was vaccines.gov, right, which is a website where you could sign up for COVID vaccine appointments, and like tens of millions of people got vaccines through this website. Got scheduled their appointments through this website, which I think if you work the math, right, assume like this convenience got you vaccines like a week or two earlier, that they probably saved a bunch of people from dying of COVID. So that's pretty cool. Her earlier project was working on the unemployment systems, right? As everything shut down in like March 2020, a lot of people were applying for unemployment, and the government systems like just couldn't keep up with the demand. So it was pretty helpful to sort of try and keep those things up and running. So yeah, I think this is like working for the government is kind of an underrated way to do something good with computers. Last thing I'll mention, I think, is finance. That's what I work on. And I guess I just want to like explain the concept here, which is like the idea of finance is I think basically like moving money from where there's too much of it to where people want it. So maybe the best example is retirement, right? So like a sort of a normal life plan is like you'll go to school for like 20 years or something, you'll work for like 40 or 50 years, and then you'll not work, retire for the last like 20 or 30 years. And so what you would like to do is save up money while you're working. And then when you're retired, you get the money back and like actually spend it, right? So you don't have to keep working to get more money. And so what you want to do is like move the money through time, right? Like hopefully you have too much money while you're working, and then you want to like store it somewhere for like 40 years and then use it later. So like how could you do this? Also, like one idea is you can like hide it under your mattress or whatever, but that's pretty inconvenient. Like maybe like bugs eat it, that's a problem. You gotta figure out how to keep it safe, whatever. And the other problem is like it's just gonna sit there, right? But like what would be better is if you could loan it out to people for like 30 years. They can do some good stuff with it, make some more money, and you guys can split the profits, right? And so like that's sort of one invention of finance is like the stock market, which is a good way to do that, right? You can take your money and you can invest it into companies, and the companies can like build another factory with the extra money and like use that to make good stuff that they sell people, and then check back in 30 years and hopefully they'll give you more money than you started with. So yeah, I guess specifically I work on building computers that buy and sell stocks for people, right? So if you want to buy stocks for your retirement, we'll sell them to you, and come back to us when you're retired, and we'll buy them, buy them back for you so you can get your money back. So yeah, a nice thing about finance is that like money is just like a super like abstract idea. So it's like very easy. It's like really sort of all on computers. Not a lot of contact with like the real world, I guess. Which is nice in some ways, right? It means that you can sort of push computer involvement like further than you can in a lot of areas where like the main question is just like, how do you get computers to like hook up with the actual thing that's happening? And so yeah, to return to my theme, like there's like a lot of cool things you could do with good programming skills. And so you should try and get good programming skills by practicing a lot. Because if you're good, if you're good at programming, that's like the super valuable skill you can apply in like all these different ways, in many more ways. And you should try and build up that skill so you have a lot of great job options. Yeah, so suppose that you did that, and now you do have all those great job options. Like, what should you actually do? So I'll mention 2 ways that I thought about this, at least. Yeah, so like, what are some things that you might want to consider when you're trying to figure out what to do? So one is like, you should do something that's actually like useful to people, right? That actually makes like a positive impact on the world. Like, I don't know, I like enjoy playing video games a lot, but that's like not a good job because like no one else benefits from me playing video games, right? It's not like useful. Like you need to do useful stuff for your job. A nice benefit of this is that, they'll like pay you to do useful stuff for them. So, that's good. Another super important thing is like, is it actually something that you like enjoy doing and are good at? I think it's, it's really important to like spend your time doing things that you enjoy. Both because it's like good, to enjoy what you're doing. You're going to spend a lot of time on it. And also, you'll just be better at it, something if you like actually like doing it and, you like spending time on it, then you'll be more motivated to get good at it. And then, you'll be better and you'll do a better job. And it's like really important to, try and do something, to do things that you're like actually going to be good at, right? Like don't waste your time on stuff that you don't like, that you're not going to actually work on, because it's really like you want to be good at things, right? It's better to be like really great at like one thing than like kind of okay at like a bunch of stuff. So, some other important factors are like, is like where you want to live, right? I guess maybe this is going to be less true with, the rise of remote work. That would be cool. But like, right now, jobs are pretty tied to locations. So you need to pick something that's actually, available where you're going to live. Also, like, does something that's useful, like to you, can be pretty motivating, right? Like useful to other people is maybe even more important, but like useful to you is like a good source of motivation, and also like a good, it's just neat to like work on things that you like actually care about, right? You want to like make things better, in a way that like matters to you, or just like uses a cool technology. Like one of the reasons that I went to work for James Street was that they used OCaml, which is this cool functional programming language. And I thought functional programming was pretty neat for college, and I wanted to, like do it for work, which it was cool. Okay, so one idea that I think is somehow both overrated and underrated is like, if you're like, I've been like, well, it seems kind of hard to figure out like what is a good job to do. So maybe I can let other people who have got, figured this out, tell me what to do. And so like one way to think about that is just like, look at how much they're going to pay you. Like if they're going to pay you a lot, it must be because they like really care. They think that it's like valuable to do this thing, right? It's more valuable to them than like the money that they're paying you. So if you want to do something that's like useful, do something where the person who wants it done like thinks it's valuable, right? Is willing to pay you a lot of money. And a nice benefit, is that you get to make a lot of money in addition to doing something, that seems to be important. So I don't know. This is like my view. I guess a lot of people are less sold on the idea that like money is a good measure of things being important, but I think it is. Okay, so another thing that I found influential on me, at least, is the effective altruism movement, which is a bunch of people online who have, spent like really tried to think through, right? I was saying like, oh, it seems kind of hard to like think through what's important. Okay, well, what if you did it anyway? These folks have, and I think they've come up with some good answers. There's a website called 80,000hours.org, which has some career advice along these lines, which I recommend taking a look at. Right, the 80,000 hours idea is you'll be working for 40 years for 2,000 hours a year. That's 80,000 hours. It's a lot of time. You should try and spend your time wisely. So I think they have some good stuff there. And I guess one of their main ideas is, right, so a problem with like the money idea is like a lot of people want to make a lot of money. So it's true that those jobs are important, but there's a lot of people like trying to do them well. So you want to work on something that's like important and also that like not a lot of people are currently working on, right? Because what matters is like your marginal impact, right? Like if you're working on something really important and you're like the only person working on it, you're probably going to have you're probably going to push it forward more, like relatively speaking, than if you're like one of 1,000 or 1,000,000 people working on it. So one of their candidates is AI, which I was mentioning earlier. Right, it seems like computers are getting like really good at doing stuff, and now humans are still better, but like maybe in 20 years, if computers are better at coding than us, like that seems pretty crazy, right? Like maybe computers can do a lot of the software engineering, and it'll be easier to like spin up computer systems that do a lot of stuff. Maybe computers will be better at things like running companies. And computers will be in charge of a lot of stuff, or maybe even like running countries. And so if computers are going to run everything, let's make sure that they're doing good stuff. As Brian was mentioning, a lot of the current artificial intelligence seems like worryingly fragile in some ways, right? If your self-driving car, someone puts some stickers on a stop sign, and then your self-driving car thinks that it's actually like a go faster sign, like that's not so good. So that's maybe something to worry about. And that is like getting to be a big field in computer science, but in real world terms, it's still pretty small compared to what it might look like in like 20 years or something. Other examples are just like sort of things that seem like they could be big possibilities for some kind of disasters. Right, we just had COVID, or I guess we're still having COVID, which was like absolutely terrible, right? Like it killed a bunch of people. And like large parts of society were shut down for like a long time, and like that wasn't it could be worse, right? Like COVID killed like maybe 1 in 1,000 or 1 in 100 people who got infected. In the Middle Ages they had the Black Death that killed half the people that got infected. So like that it's really bad. And it seems like we could do more to prepare for a future pandemic. Or other sort of future big problems. And so anyway, I think there's stuff that programming could offer there, right? Biology has gotten very computational as we've started really looking into how things work, and noticing that like DNA is very long, for example, you need computers to work with it. Yeah, so again, so anyway, these are some ways of like picking jobs. The most important thing is to like have a lot of good options for what you want to do, by having very good good skills, by like practicing those skills. So again, I think a main thing that you should do now is just like however you want to practice coding, whatever about coding like makes you excited, like go do that. Like build up that skill of programming really well. Like it's going to be super valuable. So here's some ideas about doing that, I guess, in practice. So I did computer science in undergrad. My favorite class there was compilers, which is like telling the computer how to actually run your program. Like computers don't actually speak like C++ or Python. There's another program called the compiler that translates that into language, to assembly language, which the computer can actually understand. And that's sort of a neat area of coding to work on, right? Because it's like meta coding, right? It's like code about code. Which is kind of neat and a little brain bendy. Another one is I did a lot of competitive programming in college as like an extracurricular, and that was really great, right? I did ICPC, I did a bunch of code courses, a bunch of Google Code Jam, and that was just a really great way to get a lot of practice, and it made me really good at programming, which has been super useful in my life. So here's some more ideas for like stuff you might want to do. Just like personal projects, like make a game or something that you put online, people can try. Go do a hackathon. Those are usually a little more like sort of real world focused, right? Like try and build a demo of something like cool or interesting to people in just like a day or a weekend. CTF, so like hacking, contests, like, break into this like server or, figure out this password or whatever, like, more sort of low level systems, problems. But it's still, it's like a contest, not, I'm not telling you to go out and hack stuff for real. There's internships, right? So like, will you actually like a job as a software engineer? Well, you can find out by doing that for a summer. Like all companies offer like summer internships for recruiting purposes. So try it out and see if you like it. Another great thing about internships is they pay you. So, get some money and also get some good experience and also figure out if that's something that you want to do more of. You can take classes that involve a lot of coding, right? I mentioned, my compilers class was, just all about that. Like your school, like your university or your high school probably runs on, a lot of computers, just like everything in the world does. Maybe you could, work on that actually. Like, help them with like their, help people like sign up for courses and stuff like that. Undergraduate research, right? When you're in college, a like really great resource that you have is that you are surrounded by college professors who are doing like cutting edge research on, how to make computers like do more cool things, or whatever, lots of types of research, right? Not just computer research. And while you're there, you should take advantage of that resource by doing some research with professors and see if that's something that you actually enjoy or not. Because yeah, it's just really, that's a great benefit of college, is that you actually have people doing that work like all around you, right? That won't be true after college. So take advantage of it while it's there. And yeah, coding competitions. Hopefully you're here because you like coding competitions. I love coding competitions and there's a lot of great ones. USACO, but finding, I already talked about, for US high schoolers, really great competition, or for anyone else. ACM, ICPC, sort of the equivalent in college. There's Google Code Jam, which actually the qualification round is running like right now for like the next like 9 hours. I did it this morning. I thought they were cool problems. So you should go and do it today. There's Code Forces, runs a lot of cool contests. Avenue Code is, they run a contest like every December, and it's a little more like real world than some of the other ones, which I think is neat. So I've been doing that one. So yeah, those are some cool contests that I recommend. And yeah, and again, if you take away one thing from this, write a lot of code. It'll be useful. Any questions?
All right. Thanks so much for your insightful and interesting talk on career paths, possible career paths for our TeamsCode contestants. We have some questions for you.
Cool.
One of the questions was, for people getting into any of these options that you're talking about, how much difference does a math versus a computer science degree make?
Yeah, so I would say they're both very useful to have. Probably, I mean, if you want to like primarily do programming, probably computer science is a little more on point. But like, a lot of computer science is, like problem solving, like the way of thinking that people have in math is like really helpful for computer science. So, they're both great. Probably computer science is more directly applicable to programming, as you might expect. Like for my job, we like first look for coding skills and like then we look for math skills. Like those are the two skill sets that we really want. So, ideally you would, be really, really great at both. So yeah, if there's a piece of advice I would give you other than practice coding a lot, it would be like practice math a lot. So I feel like that's like the second best, skill set to have.
All right. Another question was, you presented various career options and it seems you have been all over the place, but which field was your favorite and why? And also, finance is super rewarding monetarily, but people often claim feeling burnt out. Do you feel this atmosphere?
Okay, so let me try and answer those in order. So yeah, I'm not sure that I would say that I have been all over the place. I feel like I've mostly done software engineering. which has, definitely been great. And there's obviously that's like itself a big field, right? There's lots of different companies out there. So I guess I, worked at Google and I've worked in finance, but more on the software engineering side of finance now. And, I did some internships at some startups, or smaller companies anyway, while I was in undergrad. So sorry, I forgot what I was supposed to say about these different options. Let's see. So yeah, as far as getting burnt out, so I think it's actually been pretty reasonable. My experience, there's investment banking is like a thing that is called finance, but it's like pretty different than what I'm talking about. That's like more, that's like much less computer focused work. Those people work like 100 hours a week and get burnt out. Like, don't do that. That's terrible. The like software side of finance, you work like a normal like 40, 50 hours a week. It's like totally, I don't know. I think it's fine. I don't think it's like a crazy, terrible job or anything. Yeah, they do tend to pay you a lot of money, which is great.
Okay, great. Another question was, how was your work-life balance while practicing so much in college and high school? Often accomplished people seem to be working all the time, but maybe for you, things people view as working is super fun for you. So could you just touch up on your work-life balance through college and high school?
Sure. Yeah, so I guess in high school I was actually like not super into a lot of these contest stuff. So I feel like my work-life balance, I wish I'd done like more sort of work in high school. Like I think it would have been great to get into contest stuff earlier because I don't know, I found it really rewarding once I did get into it in college. But let's see. Yeah, I mean, I don't. College was definitely heavier on the work. I mean, I guess I would say, try and do things that you like actually enjoy doing. If you're just like, trying to force yourself to like do a bunch of work and you don't actually like it, that's not good, right? And I don't think it'll work out in the end. Like you'll just, like not actually enjoy, like it's important to like enjoy the things that you're doing so you can actually like do them for a long time and like, go sort of above and beyond and get good at them. I don't know. I don't think I was like doing anything super crazy in college. Let's see. So yeah, I don't know. I guess I'll give the cop-out answer, which is try and like work on stuff that you actually like enjoy doing, and then it won't feel so crazy. Don't like kill yourself trying to work like really hard. Try and like find like work that you actually enjoy doing.
All right, cool. We had another question. It was, what do you do at your daily job at jump trading, and how interesting do you find it?
Yeah, so it's like software engineering, but let me try and say what that means. So let's see. I have a bunch of, usually a couple like different projects going at any given time, which is like, fixing things that are broken or like making, improving things. So, one of our strategies like crashes overnight with some like weird error. So I, come in the morning and like, well, what went wrong? And like, how do we like, let me understand what happened and then how do we fix it, going forward? So that's like one kind of thing. Another kind of thing is like, building out new features. So I guess one thing that we're trying to get into now is FPGA trading, which is like a lower level, like instead of running on a CPU, like a normal computer, run on like hardware that's like more specially designed to like run things fast, which is very important in finance, how fast you are. And so there's a lot of challenges in converting our code over to run in hardware instead of on a CPU. So that's, I don't know, that's a big project we've been working on lately. How do I find it? Yeah, I think it's mostly quite interesting. Sometimes I feel like I enjoy like the bug fixing stuff less, maybe because trying to like I don't know, understand like what went wrong. Like often it's some like annoying thing, like this data source that we were relying on, like did something weird, and now we need to like decide what to do with it. So I don't know, the real world is always a pain. Like designing like new features, I find like pretty interesting. Like, what is the best way to like integrate, how can we like change like what we have in like, the best way so that like the change isn't too big and it'll, we can do all the stuff that we want to do going forward. Those are like pretty interesting problems to think about. So I don't know, I enjoy that quite a bit. And, I also just enjoy like, writing code to do things a lot. So I don't know, there's lots of that.
Okay, we have 2 more questions.
Cool.
The first one is, what do you think are the best resources to become more sufficient at competitive programming?
Best resources. Yeah, so I mean, probably the main thing is really just to like, practice a lot and you will like improve. So just like, there's a lot of contests out there, just like doing old contests, being really like hands-on. Like I think a trap people fall into sometimes is like trying to like read a lot of stuff and like learn what to do. It's better to just like do things. And then when you get stuck doing things, like then go read and you'll be more like, you'll learn more because you actually have like a real, thing that you're trying to do. So that's like one answer. I think I'll, echo Brian's recommendation of the USACO guide, which some USACO students have been putting together, sort of designed to get people better at doing USACO problems. But it helps for all coding contests, obviously, right? They're all using the same basic knowledge. So I think that's a good resource. Take a look at that.
All right. Last question. Has there been anything you've worked on that you're especially proud of?
Especially proud of. Let's see. Yeah, I guess maybe the coolest thing was maybe my work at YouTube, where we like uploaded like 1% of the videos to YouTube, which is like, quite a lot of videos actually. So one thing I like to say is I'm the person who's uploaded the most videos to YouTube of everyone on the planet. That's actually, we had a team, so it wasn't just me, but that was pretty neat. Just from, like a scale perspective, right? Like, just working on that size of things was kind of cool.
And I guess one last question that just was on the chat is, what are some majorly used languages in different industries, and what's your favorite language?
Yeah, probably Python seems to be like the biggest language these days from what I can tell. It's just very expressive. It's like they have a lot of really useful libraries for like machine learning and for I don't know, it's like scientific computing, like model building. And so, it's yeah, I'd say that's, I don't know, that seems to be the most popular language from what I can tell. I use C++ for competitive programming. So, I think it's like really, also quite a nice language, maybe a little bit too big, but like it's very expressive and, very fast, which is great combination. So that's what I use in my job. Python and C++, in fact. And yeah, I guess I'll throw in an oddball, which is Haskell is a functional language. So that's like sort of a different way of thinking about programming in some ways, which I think it's just like super interesting to try out and sort of see what's going on there. If you haven't, if your experience has just been with like the mainstream languages, try something weird. So yeah, those are some ideas.
Okay, thanks so much for coming out again, and we really appreciated you being here today.
Yeah, great. Thanks for thanks for listening. Hope it was useful.
Yep, it was definitely very useful.
All right.
All right. Now for the rest of the contestants today, please tune back into a YouTube live stream starting at 1 p.m. Pacific time. All right, and I think that will bring us to the end of our speaker events today.
Yeah, big round of applause to everyone, and see you guys at 1. Thanks so much, guys. We'll hopefully see you around. And yeah, thanks to Brian to answering questions in the Q&A session throughout the last hour. And yeah, good questions, and we'll see you guys soon. Bye.